Gosh, have you ever witnessed a frightful killer whale attack at SeaWorld? What about the fabled attack of Tilikum at Sealand of the Pacific? While their playfulness during performances is as magical as Disney World, the interactions between SeaWorld trainers and their orca counterparts have been noted as some of the worst marine animal attacks. Today, let's take a look through the secret history of different ocean amusement parks and their most notorious killer whale attacks. Number 1. The Kelty Burn incident. Of all the SeaWorld encounters that have gone wrong are like the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park, then Tilikum is without a doubt the T-Rex. The first of the attacks took place when Tilikum was a young calf at a small Canadian theme park called Sealand of the Pacific. There, he was reportedly bullied by some of the older orcas, a habit that caused him to grow up aggressive, eventually resulting in an incident where he snapped at his trainer, Kelty Burn, while an audience watched in horror. According to eyewitness reports, the 21-year-old had accidentally slipped into the juvenile whale's pool when she wasn't supposed to. In response, the whale bit her leg and started to pull her underwater repeatedly while she screamed for help. As you can imagine, having thousands of audience members watch a young trainer being attacked was bad business for the park, so it closed the following year. However, instead of releasing Tilikum, they sold him to SeaWorld Orlando. There, the trainers and staff were once again kept uninformed of Tilikum's unusually aggressive nature, leading to another loss of life in 1999 when the bull orca had grown significantly in size. Number 2. The Daniel Dukes incident. While the first attack took place in broad daylight with hundreds, if not thousands, of witnesses, what makes the second attack so terrifying is that there was reportedly not a single witness to the horrors that took place in Tilikum's pool. On the morning of July 7, 1999, trainers at SeaWorld Orlando walked in on an unidentified body floating on the surface of Tilikum's pool. According to some reports, the body was so severely damaged that the onlookers weren't even able to determine if it was that of a man or woman. As it turns out, a 27-year-old homeless man named Daniel Dukes had somehow found his way into the orca hangar and jumped into the worst pool possible. While no footage was ever released, the autopsy revealed that Dukes had been dragged into the pool and mutilated repeatedly by the angered whale. Number 3. The Don Brancho incident. While Tilikum had been involved in 2 brutal attacks, SeaWorld officials were careful to prevent their bull from being released or, worse, put down. They did this by telling trainers that the attacks were both accidents and that the whale they were dealing with was perfectly fine. Unfortunately, that lie didn't hold up for very long. Just as he had taken 8 years between his first 2 incidents, a decade passed after the second attack before Tilikum snapped again, this time on tape and in front of an audience. On February 24, 2010, on an otherwise normal show day at SeaWorld, Dawn Brancho, one of the most senior trainers at the facility, was preparing for a routine performance with Tilikum. She planned to have the giant whale do a few tricks on command and reward him with a treat afterward. Unfortunately for her, Tilikum was not going to cooperate that day. While he performed well at first, something inside him snapped. He grabbed Brancho by her ponytail and yanked her into the water. What followed next horrified everyone watching as the 6-ton behemoth violently thrashed her around before eventually pulling her deep underwater, causing her to drown. The worst part? The whale wasn't at fault. He had been abused by both the park's conditions and other whales throughout his adolescence. Even when he grew to be twice the size of the average orca, he was kept in the same confined conditions as everyone else. Despite this, the park pretended the whale was fine and allowed trainers to risk their lives without understanding the danger they were in. Number 4. The Christmas incident at Loro Park. One of the ways SeaWorld made money was by transporting and sharing their whales with other parks around the world. However, due to a combination of poor planning and even worse execution, things went terribly wrong during one such endeavor at Spain's Loro Park on Christmas Eve of 2009. SeaWorld had been preparing to loan 4 of their orcas to the Spanish park, but failed to properly train the performers there. One of those trainers was a man named Alexis Martinez, who was just 29 years old on the fateful day of the infamous incident. While attempting to train the whales, something he had never done before, Martinez was pulled underwater by one of the mothers named Quito. Normally, this would mean the whale simply dragging him down and either drowning him or eventually letting go. However, this time, all the whales ganged up on him until one of them rammed straight into his chest, causing massive internal damage. According to one report, his chest was caved in due to the force of the impact. Another report suggested there were bite marks on his body, indicating even more damage than previously imagined. Number 5. Ken Peters' near-death experience. While the previous incidents were cases of unexpected attacks where the victims had little time to react, sometimes an experienced trainer can turn the situation around. That's exactly what happened to Ken Peters in 2006 during a show at SeaWorld San Diego. According to reports, a whale named Kasaka had shown prior signs of aggression by attempting to bite Peters on 2 separate occasions, once in 1993 and again in 1999. This is likely why, when Kasaka became agitated by the cries of her young calf and grabbed Peters, he was prepared. Instead of panicking, he focused on maintaining his breathing while the whale repeatedly pulled him to the bottom of the pool, keeping him there for almost a minute each time. Though he suffered a broken foot and bleeding, his calm demeanor helped him survive as he was eventually released. Number 6. Hugo's tragic end. Last, but not least, we have perhaps the saddest story on our list. Hugo's story starts like many others. He was young when he was captured and put to work at the Miami Seaquarium. He was also bullied as a calf and separated from his parents, which led to erratic and violent behavior. This resulted in multiple incidents where he attacked and harmed his trainers. One park administrator even admitted that Hugo appeared to make deliberate efforts to injure human performers. In one instance, a trainer was left with teeth marks on his cheek, requiring 7 stitches. Another trainer, Chip Kirk, was attacked and left with a scar on his arm. Other trainers suffered torn suits and unprompted lunges. However, the most tragic part of Hugo's story is that much of his aggression was directed at himself. Reports state that he repeatedly rammed into his enclosure's walls at full speed in an apparent attempt to hurt himself. Finally, one day his skull gave in, causing a brain aneurysm that ended his life. That was horrifying, wasn't it? But who takes the blame? The orcas or the trainers? Let us know down below, and don't forget to check out some of the most thrilling animal encounters of the North. Until then, this is the Wild Vault.